Okay, this is a story about Kutten Oil Company.
The dream of many European immigrants was to come to America. Frank Kutten Sr., born in 1856, was one of those early dreamers. The story of Kutten Oil begins when three Kutten brothers left Kuttenberg, Germany in 1875 to fulfill their dreams in America. The Kutten brothers' journey began by taking a boat from Germany to Ellis Island. The journey to come to America took approximately 12 to 14 days. During the journey, brothers Frank Sr. and Nick met many other dreamers, including two sisters. Once they arrived to Ellis Island, the three Kutten brothers split up. Frank Sr. and Nick continued their journey to Port Washington, Wisconsin. New frontiers like the Great Lake region offered free land to those who had agreed to stay and farm. After some time in Wisconsin, the Kutten brothers found an opportunity to go to Chicago. They found a job taking a cattle herd to the Chicago stockyard. The large city offered many new opportunities for the Kutten brothers. Once settled, they invited the two sisters who they met on the boat to join them in Chicago. The brothers later married the two girls and started their families. Frank Sr. had 3 children. After about 15 years in Chicago, the two brothers went in separate directions. Nick headed to St. Charles, Illinois, and Frank Sr. headed to Wilmette, Illinois. It was in 1893 when Frank and his wife, Mary Barbara, landed in Wilmette, and the train was one of the most important factors in the decision to move there. The North Shore line ran from Chicago to Milwaukee and provided passenger and freight service. In the late 1800s, life in Wilmette was geared to a horse and buggy society. There was also a lot of land and growth opportunities. Shortly after getting to Wilmette, Frank Sr. found work at Hoffman's Chicken and Feed, where he learned a new trade. In 1898, Frank Sr. started his own business, Frank Kutten & Sons. His business included selling flour, feed, hay, grain, coal, and wood. His young sons, Frank Jr. and Joe, worked with him in the business. The sons learned many skills working with their father. One of them was driving the delivery trucks. This skill would become very valuable later in life. On January 1st, 1913, Frank Sr. retired and was succeeded by his sons, Joseph and Frank Jr. Upon the change of control, the brothers renamed the business to Kutten Bros. The business continued to grow until Frank Jr. had to go into the Army. On October 4th, 1917, Frank Jr. entered the Army to fight in World War I. His first deployment was in France with the 33rd Field Artillery. He was then transferred to the 128th Infantry and then to Company A, 1st Division, 1st Motor Supply. Frank's experience in driving trucks was in high demand of the Army. Frank later became an ambulance driver in the 1st Division. He drove Ambulance 266 in France, which was purchased and equipped with pride from the citizens of Wilmette, Illinois. Getting transferred to drive a truck ended up saving Frank Jr.'s life. The original group deployed to the 33rd Field Artillery were all killed in the line of duty except for Frank. Frank Jr. was discharged in 1919 and returned home to continue the family business. Business was very good for many years, and after continued success, Frank Jr. built the family home at 1101 Chestnut Avenue in 1927. In the 1920s, the coal business continued to blossom because of a well-positioned piece of land and good zoning in Wilmette that was adjacent to the railroad tracks. The North Shore Line Railroad ran from Chicago to Milwaukee and was essential to passenger and freight trains. The unique zoning that Kutten Coal Corporation received allowed the business to have a prime location to distribute coal to the growing North Shore. Coal delivery was a very labor-intense and messy business. Deliveries were done by small trucks where they dumped coal on resident property or through a chute in a designated window to the furnace room. At the persistence of Frank Jr., in 1928, Kutten Coal Corporation changed the direction of the company from coal to fuel oil. This occurred right before the Great Depression. The business survived during the Depression, largely because Frank and his wife were smart business people. They helped many of their customers who could not pay the bills during the winter months, so their customers could keep their pipes from freezing. After the economy improved, over 90% of the customers paid Kutten Oil back. In 1931, the coal yard on Laramie in Wilmette was converting this from storing of coal to the storing of oil. The new fuel was cleaner and more cost-effective, and helping Kutten Oil to continue to grow. The other thing that was growing during this time was organized crime, with fighters like Capone, Danby, and others who had a strong hold on the business in Chicago.
And so they got a hold of this Al Capone and his hunchman, and he was Three-Finger Jack. I think his name was William Smith or something like that. Anyhow, there's a little history on that man, and they blew up our oil tanks, and they did it twice. And just to say, we didn't have any fencing around, but after that there was fencing around the coal and oil tanks, and then the coal was out of business, and there was just the oil. And so this situation, it happened twice that they were blown up. And my father did find out, or my grandfather did find out where this guy lived, and they went down and they shook him down. And they didn't have any guns, but my father had been to World War I, so the guy was pretty shook up after my grandfather took a hold of him and shook him up pretty bad.
I tell you what I'm going to give you, Snakes. I'm going to give you to the count of 10.
And that's kind of a funny story, because it was funny to see these two guys in business and shaking up somebody's gangsters, workmen that worked for her. I was probably, 5 or 7 years old when this happened, and I remember the explosion in Laramie Avenue, and I lived in Wilmette on Chestnut Street, so it was not the way it's congested today. It was really a lot of farm country, and so you could hear all that bombing, so those coal tanks and oil tanks. So
the success of Kutten Oil started with Frank Sr.'s dream to come to America, and the attributes to focus on family, good values, and hard work. Frank Jr. continued to run Kutten Oil until his death on Friday, October 7th, 1960.
That's another part of the story.